And well, there has to be a balance. And I learned that probably, 12 years ago. It was so clear. I remember the time and the moment where I was working my butt off. I was hustling, right? That's what we do. We hustle, hustle, hustle. I was working 80 hours a week. I just had a kid. It was crazy. And my daughter came in. I tell this story. She came in with a wrapped present to my office and said, "Mom, I have a present for you." And I said, "What is it? This is wonderful." She was 2. And I opened it and it was a clock. And I was like, "A clock?" I'm like, "Izzy, what is this for?" She's like, "So you know when to stop working."
What's up, everybody? This is Paul Critchley, president of New England Lean Consulting. Welcome to another episode of the New England Lean podcast. I hope everybody had a great week and weekend. I hope you enjoyed our episode with Karen Ross. I know I did. I love talking to Karen. You know, she does such important work. I was so happy to have her on the show. I hope you liked it, and I hope you got something from it. This week, I'm ecstatic to welcome my friend Adrienne Gil to the show. Adrienne hails from the Green Mountains of Vermont, and in a place that I think, for those not in New England, when you think about New England, you think kind of fall foliage and, white church steeples and, apples and all. So that's exactly where Adrienne lives. I've driven through her town more than once, so it's beautiful there. But, one thing I really love about Adrienne is, she and I have known each other for several years, and we follow each other on social media. And it's always interesting, the things that she shares are not only insightful, but meaningful. And what I mean is, for instance, she talks a lot about balance. And though I personally kind of have my own perspectives on work-life balance and the fallacy of that, but, if we just take that at face value, Adrienne gets this right, in my humble opinion. She's constantly sharing pictures of, weeding her garden or going out on a bike ride or all that kind of fun stuff. And it's just a good reminder, I think, as to why we all do this lean thing. Really, what's it all for? Yes, of course, it's to reduce cost and increase throughput and deliver value to the customer. But it's really also about improving people's lives so that they can go and enjoy what life has to offer and what it's really all about. And the other thing I think is kind of cool is Adrienne comes at this from a much different perspective than most. She actually has a BA in sociology and applied anthropology, of all things, and she is a master of public health. She's worked with the state of Vermont in varying positions for a long time, and she actually went out on her own. So she's a consultant like I am, like we are here at New England Lean. So should we talk a little bit about that and what perspectives we kind of bring as a, air quotes, independent third party. But I love, the message that Adrienne brings. And that's why I named this episode what I did, Culture, Customs, and the Groan Zone. I love that. And Adrienne talks a lot about that here in this episode and what she means by that. So as always, I hope you like it. I hope you get something from it. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon. All right, welcome to the New England Lean podcast. Today, I get to welcome my friend from the Great Green North, Adrienne Gill. Hi, Adrienne.
Hi, Paul. Excited to be here.
How's life in the Green Mountains of Vermont?
Vermont. So today is the first warm day in about 9 months. So everyone is outside enjoying 70-degree weather. So
Nice.
We're happy.
Nice. And now, what part of the state are you? Northern, middle?
So I live in Montpelier, which is right in the middle of the state.
Gotcha.
Capital. Beautiful.
Yeah. I used to drive through there on my way to school from Maine. So I'd cut Route 2 across Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, hit Montpelier, and then head up the interstate. So
we love it.
I didn't know I would have beeped if I know you were there.
I would have heard you.
On my way by. I know, right?
Like, there's Paul.
Well, I still get that sometimes. People be like, "Oh, what part of Maine are you from?" And I'll say, Stockton Springs, and they'll be like, "Oh, do you know so and so?" And fun. So here's the funniest thing: I was keynote speaking at the Maine Housing Authority years ago, and somebody saw my name, and Critchley is not that common of a name. So this lady comes up to me with a couple other people, and she introduced herself. She goes, I grew up in Eastport, and there was a Paul Critchley. Are you related? I'm like, that's my dad. And I'm
That's
like,
awesome.
what are the odds? Here I have a crowd of 200 people.
Yep.
I'm like, that figures. So now it's like, it always, because everyone says, well, you're from Maine, do you know so-and-so? It's kind of like a half joke. And I'm like, you know what? There's a 20% chance I probably, if I don't know them, I know their brother,
It's a very small world. That's what
Yeah.
I've learned.
Yeah. So speaking of small worlds, the lean community is smallish by comparison, but in case people don't know exactly who you are or what you do, could you maybe just hum a few bars about how you get your start and what you're up to now?
Sure. So I have worked professionally in the nonprofit world for about 20 years. I spent 13 years in Georgia, where I got my start working at the community level in schools and building up a national program for the Alliance for a Healthier Generation to focus on wellness policies and strengthening them for school districts, both in Georgia and then nationally. And then moved to Vermont, which who wouldn't want to move this beautiful state? It's by choice. This is where we choose to live. So we're very fortunate and happy to have that option. And over the past couple years, I've kind of tinkered with the thought of going out on my own. Oh my gosh, that's so crazy. But I did. I spent a couple years working in state government and healthcare, higher education, and really taking all of those worlds and looking at them with different lenses from operational, organizational, people, and really having just it's time for me to go out on my own. And I started my consulting company a couple years ago. Of course, then COVID hit, which was terrible. So but I have my own company, ALG Consulting, and I work with really mission driven organizations. That is my main focus. My goal and my passion in life, what gets me up in the morning, is I want to help organizations that want to do better in the world, have it be solar, water, schools, education. I want to help them be more efficient in their processes and how they operate as a business so they could change the world. So I can have a little piece of that success.
Nice. And we, likewise, we have a public school system that's a client, and it's one of the most fun clients that I have because I'm an engineer. I know you're not. And I want to talk about that with you in a second because you have a wicked unique background that is going to blow everybody's mind. But yeah, I'd love, I'll teach a group of teachers and administrators, and, I'm talking about 5S and all this stuff. And it's just, it's so different and foreign. Because, in engineering, industrial engineering, this is like old hat kind of stuff. But to them, it's all brand new. And it's like, what are you talking about? What's Kanban? That sounds pretty cool. Tell me more about that, But the way I like to view it is, and I'm pretty tight with the director of operations there. And he's just like, yeah, he goes, they just, they don't think like that. So this is all brand new. But the cool thing is when you make that kind of, the back end process, I don't know if mundane's the right word, but when you take all that and kind of make that easier, then they really get more time to spend on making the world a better place kind of stuff. And that's like so much fun to watch.
Love it. And I think, making the world a better place, and what's really got me over the past, 15 years is, life is too short. So let's be happy in what we do. And I found myself just saying that over and over again, like, let's be happy. And, being happy to me means, going to work every day and not dreading your job, which means, you kind of start peeling back that onion and thinking about like all the processes that are in place, all the, ambiguity and lack of clarity like that. It doesn't have to be that way.
Right?
It really doesn't. It can be easy and fun.
What a concept, right? And it is mind boggling sometimes to think, why isn't it right? Why don't more people make that connection and work harder? I don't know if we'll ever answer that question.
I don't know. I think it's working smarter, not harder, right? Like if you could make it easier and then people can enjoy their jobs and then be happy and then go spend time with, things outside their jobs that they really love to do. It's, bringing in kind of layering in that work-life balance piece too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because I've talked about it on the show before, I've had jobs where, I'll be driving there, my stomach will hurt, my chest will start to get tight. And, I'm walking into the building. I can close my eyes and I can put myself right there. And it's just
Yes.
like everything inside of me is screaming, don't do it. Don't go, and I guess you could make the case that, I was setting my own expectations to kind of have a crummy day. So maybe I influenced it a little bit, but at the same time, when some dingbat vice president feels like taking out his bad day on me for no reason, it's like, what am I doing this for?
Yeah.
And I use the term dingbat in a very specific, so I had a
Yeah.
person in mind for that one.
Yeah. No, we don't that's what we want to try to avoid.
Right. So I alluded to it a little bit, Adrienne. You're not an engineer.
Nope.
Your background is?
So my background, my whole life, I have been fascinated by people and culture. I watched all the Indiana Jones movies as a kid and I wanted to go explore. I wanted to go in the caves and go travel the world and meet with as many different people living in remote parts of, rainforests in Indonesia. Like that is what just got me so excited. So I found the world of sociology and anthropology. So that is what I majored in college, thinking that I was going to be the next Adrienne Jones traveling the world until someone told me like, oh my gosh, all it is grant writing. Like you're actually not going to travel the world. I'm like, well, that sounds terrible. I don't want to spend my time writing grants, which of course, fast forward 20 years later, that's pretty much what we end up doing anyway.
Right.
And so my background is in sociology, anthropology, and then I became very interested in public health, kind of layering in the world of health and wellness and thinking about how do we focus on prevention so that we're all as humans happy and healthy and focusing on the good parts of life. And so I ended up getting my master's in public health from University of South Florida. And what I have focused on is just the people, trying to support people and getting clarity around their roles and responsibilities and the operations of organizations so that in the end, right, you start at the end, people are happy, they know what they're supposed to be doing, there's clarity around their roles and responsibilities and their metrics, and everyone on the team understands who's doing what, when, and why, and how, and they're healthy and they're happy. So I've kind of layered in all those pieces into my work, and over the past 10 years, really learned about lean and continuous improvement and kind of folded that into how I operate.
Nice. Yeah. And that's such a different background than other guests we've had on the show. That's why I wanted to ask you about it. Cause I'm quite certain we haven't had an anthropologist on. So how do you feel like, so I see you active on social media, LinkedIn. How do you feel like that is different than like what I post? Like, cause I'm like the poster boy for engineering, I guess, right, wrong, or indifferent. How, like, do you feel like the stuff, that you see out there in the league community is maybe a little bit different? You come at it from a little bit different perspective, and how? Like, talk to us maybe a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I would say it's very intimidating, just to be honest. A lot of the people that I've worked with and have interacted with in the world of lean and continuous improvement, I did work at two state transportation agencies, one in Georgia and one here in Vermont. So those are all engineers. I mean, that's what they do. They build bridges and roads. And then here I am, I'm an anthropologist. And my role within those organizations was to either build a state program or how do I help make government run more efficiently. Okay, that's a tough one.
I was going to say, that's no small undertaking
That
there.
was no small undertaking, but I think, coming into this whole new world, and learning from the engineers and, the lean experts and reading tons of books, and, it's just a learning process of, the framework and the structures that people, use. In my mind, it's like a whole new set of tools that I'm able to apply with the skills that I've had, kind of the people part of it, the anthropology, the sociology, it's the culture, while you're layering in the tools of, continuous improvement. Like, I feel like it's such a beautiful marriage between the two. And so, yeah, I'm just so open to learning just how engineers think, and how, manufacturing organizations like operate. Like, it's just fascinating to me because it's not my world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're right. And that's what I love about the post that you put. I encourage you, please keep doing the same thing, because I'm posting whatever, Kaizen event this or ISO 9001 that, and here you post a picture of you out on a bike ride with your kids, and I'm like, one of us is doing this a lot better than the other one.
And well, there has to be a balance, and I've learned that probably 12 years ago. It was so clear. I remember the time and the moment where I was working my butt off. I was hustling, right? That's what we do. We hustle, hustle, hustle. And I was working 80 hours a week. I just had a kid. It was crazy. And my daughter came in. I tell this story. She came in with a wrapped present to my office and said, "Mom, I have a present for you." And I said, "What is it? This is wonderful." She was 2. And I opened it and it was a clock. And I was like, "A clock?" I'm like, "Izzy, what is this for?" She's like, "So you know when to stop working."
Ooh.
So
wow.
At that point in my life and my journey, as a mom working, we're told as a society, especially women, that we've got to work harder, longer to keep up. I mean, it's just how I was raised. And the more I work, the longer hours I put in, the more I hustle, like maybe I'll make it to the top, whatever that means, like my own definition. And at that moment in time, I was like, wow, like this is eye-opening to me, because I have a kid, 2 kids now, and a husband. And I really decided at that moment in time, that day, that my number one value for myself is to have a work-life balance. And because of that, I'm happier. I can focus better on what I do best. I'm, better suited for my clients because I know when to say no, right? Like, I'm not going to take on too much because I don't want to do a bad job, and I don't need to hustle that much because I'm happy. Like, I'm happy where I am. My family's happy. We're all healthy. And, that's how I try to balance my life. And those posts, it helps remind me of that balance and my value, and hopefully inspires others to have the same.
I think it does. And I'll tell you, it does for me. And that's why I was so, like, what you and I've chatted a few times just on the phone,
Right.
in the last few months. And like we were talking before we hopped on here, it's, we were on the phone for 2 hours almost. And it's like, where did the time go? But it's very poignant what you said about, and I didn't know that story about Izzy and the clock. I have a very similar story. Before I went out on my own, we were on vacation in the Philadelphia area, and we were in the hotel room. I remember we were all getting changed to go down to the pool in the hotel. And I'm same as you. I was, kind of raised the same way. Work comes first and whatever you got to do. And, the whole deal. And we were on vacation, and I had a BlackBerry, and it was the old silver ones. This thing's like, it weighed like 1.5 pounds. And I remember I'm in the hotel room, and I was changed first. So I was checking email, air quotes, checking email real quick for work. And I get this nasty email from some customer or something. And I was sitting there where, firing back this thing. And I was totally in the moment there.
Yeah.
And I just I can close my eyes and remember, I our little one, Hannah, she's like, Daddy, are you coming? And I remember I looked over and they're all in their swimsuits and, right. And they're little, and she's just sitting there holding her towel. And I'm just like, I can't say what I actually thought, but I'm like,
Yep.
and it was that moment that I'm like, this is not cool. Like I'm
Mhm.
doing something wrong. And that was, flash forward a few years. And that's when I decided to go out on my own and kind of take the reins
Mm.
and the whole deal. And I know not everybody can make that choice.
No.
Not everybody's cut out for being a small business owner
Mm-mm.
and all that fun stuff. Cause there's lots that come along with that. But from a lean perspective, it's like the more I've done it, the more I'm convinced that the power is the culture and it's the
Mm.
people part, the respect for people stuff. And we talk about that on the show, ad nauseum, but it's that important. And I still feel like in 2021, we're halfway through, a lot of people still don't get it. They still, they're
No.
looking at the KPI board and thinking our costs are too high or on time delivery is not good enough. And
Yep.
what are we going to do about that? And it's like, yeah, that's important. That's a business thing. And right, we need the business to keep going to provide employment. But like, take care of your employees. They will take care of the customers. So that's got to come first. And it's like such a paradigm shift, I think, for some folks.
It is a paradigm shift. And I think it's so hard. People are complex and it's dealing with emotions of people. So I feel like a lot of time I'm like a counselor, like a therapist. Like really, it's like, how are you feeling today? Like yesterday, I had a check-in call with one of my clients, and we just spent the time talking about. I mean, like, how are you feeling about this project? Like, really, like your gut. Like, what is working? What is working really well? Like, I try to lead with the positive as much as possible. Like kind of like the appreciative thinking, just like thinking with a positive and trying to put smiles on people's faces because it relaxes them. It kind of clears their mind. One of the things that I try to avoid is just, what's not working? Like, what can we do better? Like, how can we, it's just, once you kind of go down that rabbit hole of looking at all the negative things, people they become frowny and
Mm,
become really sad, and it's really tied to the psychology of how people think and how they operate. So just leaning in with the positive and really focusing on. I watched one of your podcasts, like the strength based, really thinking about the strengths of teams,
yeah,
right?
with
So
Colleen Del Vecchio. Yeah.
yeah, like what are you doing well, like, and how can you use your strengths to be a better person, to be a better team member, to be a better leader. And so that is, yeah, I think the people part of it is so complex, and like the change management, managing all those pieces of change. And right now the team I'm working is they're in that like low part. I call it the groan zone. I'm sure there's like more of like a technical term for it in
I love
lean.
it.
But when you start a project, everyone's so excited and they're like, this is so great, right? It's the psychology. Like, we're so happy. We're kicking this off. We're all going to do it. It's like rah, rah, like, balloons and confetti everywhere. Then once you actually start doing the work and you're like, you hit your first hurdle, you dip into what I say, the groan zone. Everyone's like, oh my God, we're never going to do this. This is terrible. And people start kind of derailing, and it's really, really painful. And so my job, I feel, as like a coach and a practitioner in this world, is to keep them thinking about the positive. Where do you want to go? Where are you now? How can you keep moving through this grown zone and getting to where you need to be? And so it's kind of the project management piece, it's the lean, it's continuous improvement, it's change management, it's culture, it's psychology. It's kind of all wrapped into that world. And having the leaders also involved, so you have that respect for the people that are working through these really challenging, complex projects that just don't, it's not going to just happen.
Mm,
And I think that's sometimes what people think.
right. Right. Cause yeah, you're right. And we run into that too, where people think it's a project or you're right. We're done with lean we did that, and it's like, well, you're forgetting the continuous part of continuous improvement. And I
Yep.
love, the Groan Zone is great. I'm going to steal that. But so talk to us a little, how do you help coach people? Because you're right. I think it's, there is that initial, like we'll do training and everyone will leave at 4:00 and ready to run through brick walls. And you're right, or we'll do a Kaizen event and we'll start banging stuff out and people, right. But then Monday comes and they're back to their air quotes real job. And
I
then
know.
you lose a little momentum. How do you help people work through that?
So, one of the things that I found that I just absolutely love, and it's part of, it's working on the lean part, the Kaizen events, having all the teams there, working on the project charters, getting to the root cause, which is all, part of the process. What I love to do is what happens after that. So when they get into the work and they get into that part where, okay, we had all this excitement, we had all these events, we know we have our implementation plan, but they actually start doing it. And that's when the change management comes in. You kind of have to have a little bit of hand holding, some compassion and empathy kind of built in there, and that coaching, which is, I don't know, I think that's the part that I personally thrive at, because I want them to succeed. And it's not, in my mind, this is not just another program, right? It's not just something we're coming in to do to you. It's how do you change the culture of your organization so that everyone is it's just the way they do their work. And so if I can share with them and like lead tools as they're doing their daily work, like for example, one of the clients I have wanted to use the Asana project management tool.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had someone come in and set all their project boards up for them and like do all of the work for them and said, here you go, here's your work. And they're like, we have no idea what this is.
Right.
Right. So I've spent, almost a month every week having an Asana project management check-in. And so we share our screens and I go through with them. I do the work for them at first. So I show them how to use the tool. So it's kind of the adult principal model. So they're seeing it, they're hearing it, they're watching it. And then we're in the transition phase now where they're like, oh my gosh, we had no idea that is what that tool actually does. And how clear is it that is what I'm supposed to be doing? That's my deadline. And like, I'm being held accountable for this work by my team now. I'm like, yes, that is what it is. And so that process of sharing, learning, teaching, guiding, and then handing it over to them, because now they understand how to use it, which in my mind will be sustainable because they've bought into it, they know how to use it, and they see how valuable it is. And so now I feel good that this is how they're going to manage their work, because I literally handheld them through that process.
Right.
And I watched their voices and their faces, and I understood the frustration, knew when they were in that groan zone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And to your point, especially as a third party, outside consultant, we're both in that realm of, well, can you just come in and just do this for us? No, that's not how this works. I can come in and I can teach it and I can guide you and I can coach you. I'm like a coach, really, but I can't can I do it for you? Yes, of course. Like I was a career ME. I can do routers and travelers and I could, right. But you don't want me to do that because, eventually my job is to work myself out of the job. I got to teach you all how to do this stuff. That's the sustainment piece. I will guarantee you if I come in and I just do it for you, right?
Yep.
It's not going to stick. You got to go through the groan zone, right? That's kind of where I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not a sociologist, right? But I feel like that's where the I don't know what the right word is, the tendrils that get connected between people.
Yes.
It's like you went through the hard thing together and now the times are good. Now you both can reap the benefits and that you both put in the effort to get through that part. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And it's, studying the culture of that team. So, when you're doing your discovery phase, really trying to understand the people, the personalities, like their strengths, kind of their background, where they're coming from, like all of that has to be taken into account because not every person operates the same way. So we think as businesses as complex systems and operations, but then so are people. We are complex, systems that operate on many different levels as people and as humans. So just thinking of it as you have your business, you have your processes, you have the work, but I think the same amount of attention and care also has to be given to the people in that same process, because you can't just go in and teach people skills and tools without taking into account how they, like their current state, like what is the current state of the team? What is the current state of their relationships? How do they operate together? What is their communication strategy? And baselining that piece as well as the business piece. And if you merge them together, after you do your discovery and figure out what that looks like, I've seen that it's very successful moving forward and building those sustainable programs or processes or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. So talk to us a little bit about that, because it's interesting that the words you chose, a current state of the team itself.
Right.
How do you do? I mean, I'm assuming you don't map it.
No, right? So it's so interesting. Like what I love doing, like deep, like what do they call, like informational interviews with the team. So individual interviews with everyone on the team. Like I take the time to interview them. And I don't have like a script. And this is maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a flaw, or maybe I need to create this. I don't know. But I have, it's very personable. Like I build a relationship. I'm building trust. I spend time just asking them about their job, their life, like what do they feel like when they come to work every morning? What do they work on? What do they love about their job? Like when they come to work, like what is the best thing that they do? What are some of the pain points? As I said, I don't like to focus too much on the negative, but we still need to reveal, what makes people, unhappy in their job, and who do they report to? Who reports to them? What does that communication structure look like? Do they have weekly meetings, or what I usually find out, like they have no meetings at all? Like no one checks in with anybody more frequently than not. How are they measured on their performance? Do they have, a whole list of just, discovery questions. And I do that for each person on the team. Obviously if it's like hundreds of people, I can't do that, but, I pick, sometimes I do a random, assignment to people, or I strategically pick people, in consultation with the leadership on who I need to interview. And I'm always wary about people they tell me not to interview. And so then I usually interview them anyway.
Yeah.
I'm like, why do they say no to that person? There's a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my discovery. So I build those relationships, really try to understand the psychology around people and understand their strengths and just, their adult learning styles. And then I take all those pieces of that team and try to put it together. So when I do discovery on a process or a program, I know how that team is operating in the back of my head.
And, I don't think a lot of lean practitioners do that. I mean, maybe we do it anecdotally. I know I don't, I'll do interviews and stuff, but I'm certainly not as in depth in the way that you just described.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's
a whole nother world. And I think that's where my sociology and the anthropology piece comes in, just the curiosity around people and culture. So I think of an organization, I think of even a team of 2 people or 3 people or 100 people, that is a culture. And so what is that culture and how do they operate? What are their customs? What do they celebrate? How do they communicate? A culture could be, anything. And so really trying to understand that culture, and that's my discovery, because I really feel that that has a huge impact downstream on how they do their work. So I feel like we can't, in my mind, it's so critical to not skip that step before you dive into the work of the Kaizens and the continuous improvement and the mapping, because I feel like that's where a lot of the root causes are, in interpersonal relationships and the culture of the organization.
100%. Absolutely. I mean, tools are great,
Yeah.
but it's a tool. It's like a
Hmm.
screwdriver or a hammer or anything else. It's like if you put it in the hands of somebody who doesn't care, doesn't know how to use it, they were never
Yep.
shown, then the team dynamic is so
Yep.
very important.
Yeah.
Do you use like disc profiles, predictive index, Myers-Briggs, or any of those formal things, or not so much?
So I've been trained on all those, strength-based leadership, Myers-Briggs. I mean, there's so many, um, situational leadership. So my career, I've been so fortunate to have, um, I've had amazing professional development opportunities throughout my career, and have attended, trainings and been trained by consultants and all that stuff, which is great. Um, but most of my professional development has been on those kind of strength-based tools. Not most, I would say a lot. And so I think about that all the time when I'm meeting with these people. Like, all right, so when you think about like situational leadership, it's, like there's 4 different quadrants in that tool. It's a framework. These are all frameworks, right? So those are
Mhm.
all tools in our toolbox that we have. So if someone's new to an organization but is such an expert in their field, but may not be an expert at this job, there's a different way that that leader or their manager or supervisor can work with them. Because if you go in and start telling them about, their expertise, they're going to feel really crappy about themselves, because they're like, I'm an expert in this field. I've been doing this for 20 years. I just don't know this job.
Mm.
And so I can see that very quickly in teams. If someone's an expert but might be new to a process, it's not that they, you know, don't know how to do it. They just need a different way of being taught, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm explaining that well, but there's definitely different ways to approach people based on where they are, and developmentally learning their skills.
Right. And that's a term that we use that I think it might have even popped up on this show before. You're going to meet people where they are,
Yeah, there you go.
right? And it's just that, because you never know. And to your point from earlier, humans by far in my whole management career, so variable. So, I mean, a machine's a machine, a lathe, a mill, a robot, right? They don't have good days and bad days, right? I mean, yeah, they're going to break down, but there's PM, TPM for that, right? But it's an object. Humans who like infinite amount of variables,
Yes.
right? And it's so hard. I mean, as a manager, sometimes just to understand, to your point, like, and I think it comes back to the base. What kind of a relationship do you have?
Yes.
Is it trust and respect? Is it fear? Right. And that's, I think, when the dust settles, whenever that may be, it's what does everybody return to? Like, how do you and I interact normally? And then if something's bugging you or bugging me, when that gets over with, we return back to that base. Um, and I think, again, for the respect for people side, I feel like, and I often wonder, when we talk lean, we don't really have tools, I think, on
Mhm.
the respect for people side. We
Right.
don't have a Myers-Briggs, we don't have a disc profile, we don't have a strengths, right? It's
Yeah.
it's we talk about culture and everything. It's like,
Mm.
okay, but how? I mean, continuous
Wow.
improvement pillar all day long. You want Kaizen, you want Kanban, it's
Yeah.
like the guy with the watches in his jacket. What do you want today? At 5S, what do you want? It's a crazy Paula's sale, right? Buy 2, get 1 free.
Yeah.
But on the
True.
culture piece, it's like this. It's still this gray nebulous
Mhm.
thing. And even I walked down the aisle of a bookstore, um, and I walked through the leadership section, and that's what a lot of the books are all about. How do we get the most out of people? Like, and now it's like the Navy SEALs have their own little section, because a whole bunch of them are written books. And, it's just like, I'm not sure I don't know. I guess I'm just not sure, like, if we have a good way of going about that.
No, I don't think we have not that I've ever seen, there's not like a good framework. Well, because people are complex, right? So I've seen, or my experience is just trying to learn as many tools as possible. I mean, I'm not a psychology expert. Like that's not what my, background is, but, just learning as many tools and trying to understand how humans interact. And then of course, from like the hierarchy perspective at a company, like there's so many dynamics between, the CEO and the frontline staff and the middle management, and like, how do they all work together in harmony, I guess, or a way that, in sync, that they're, in my mind, it's always like everyone on the same rowboat and they're all rowing in the same direction. Like, how do you get that? You can absolutely work on that through your processes, through communication, through the tools and like the lean toolbox. But I feel like it just all comes back to the culture of the organization and trying to understand that and work to, increase communication and understanding and empathy on how people work together. Mm-hmm. I don't think there is like a magic wand for that.
Yeah, probably not. Wouldn't it be nice though, huh?
I know. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, maybe there is like a 5-step process somewhere. But
well, I'm sure somebody's written a book on it. If it's 5 or 12 steps, who knows? But somewhere in there.
I always find that so funny. I'm like, here's the 10-step process for working with people. I'm like, okay, well, that's not really.
Yeah, right. That's not a thing.
That's not a thing. It's like, it's so silly because it's hard. It's just hard work.
It is. And that's why I think that's probably why there is no set tools, because there's impossible to do so.
Yeah.
Because like you said, I mean, I could be having a great day. Somebody cuts me off right before I pull in the parking lot. Now I'm in a bad mood. I mean, who knows? Right?
Who knows? And you can't control that. I mean, there's, the sphere of influence. Like you can control what you can control. And there's stuff out in the world that you can't control, and just kind of let it go and just focus on what you can do.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. So Adrienne, I always like to take a little bit of a break and play the wicked fun part if you're up for it.
Yeah.
All right. And I don't know, do you guys say wicked in Vermont? Is that a thing?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's more Boston.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like a Maine, Eastern New England.
Yeah, I don't know. Maine, Boston, I don't know.
Yeah. All right, here we go. What is your favorite song and why?
Oh my God, that's so easy. I love it. So my favorite song in the whole world. All right, so for all the people out there in the world, I'm revealing a side of myself. Susie Greenberg by Fish.
I don't know that one.
Okay.
I know Fish.
Oh my God. Fish fans are going to be so excited right now.
I don't know how many we have in the audience, but
that's true. Well, someone out there. So I love Fish.
Yeah. Well, you're in Vermont. I mean, isn't that like there on the application? This
is where they're from.
Right.
Right, that was not the response that I was expecting. So excited, and you're like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm glad I asked that question though. I have to punch it up. I got to ask you this question. What were you like in high school?
God, please don't ever. No. Oh my gosh. In high school, I was a wild child. It is true. I like to go out and have a lot of fun with my friends, listen to the Grateful Dead, Pink Floyd. I had dreads in my hair.
This picture's becoming very clear, Adrienne.
Don't judge me. So my past doesn't necessarily predict my future, but I did have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think I've seen 25 Fish shows when I was in high school.
Holy cow. Good for you.
There you go.
All right. What's the funniest thing that's happened to you recently?
Oh gosh. Funny thing. Oh, that's a good one. I don't know if I can. A funny thing that's happened to me recently. I don't know. Life is funny. Every day is funny. I'm not really sure.
Okay. Your kids haven't zinged you anytime recently?
No,
Mine
not that
get
I can
me. Mine
think
get
of.
me all the time.
That's funny.
Let's see. How about what inspires you?
Oh, what inspires me? Um, as I said before, kind of, I've really am clear on my values, and um, what inspires me is to just live the best life I possibly can, and I want to be happy. I really work hard on being happy and being healthy and kind of sharing that with my family. Of course, it's hard at times because my 12-year-old is going on to, like, I don't know, crazy 16. She's she's pulling my strings every day. So it's a little bit of a challenge these days. So I'm reminding myself every day that I am inspired to be happy.
Nice.
Yes, I am.
They're good for that sometimes.
It's a tough age.
It is. It can be for sure. How about what sound or noise do you love?
I love, I guess, what I've been craving lately, and I don't know if it's because of COVID, but I'm probably driving my husband crazy here, but I love the sound of the ocean to the point where I have planned like 10 trips to an ocean over the past 10 months that we have not gone on.
Yeah.
I really love the sound of the ocean and the waves, and it just brings me I don't know, it's just peaceful. So I'm needing that now, and that's what I'm trying to get to the ocean.
Nice. Yeah, honestly, I think the next year or so, and this is just me talking, I have no idea, right? But like, for instance, I just read we were trying to plan our vacation because we didn't do anything last year.
No.
And I'm of the mindset, I'm like, listen, we didn't do one last year, so let's kind of blow it out this year. I think a lot of people are having that same plan. I just read an
Yes.
article in Hawaii, which was one of the places we were thinking of going.
Oh,
Um, they're like running out of rental cars because
yes,
there's
I
so many
know.
people there, and they're getting price gouged to the point where people are renting either U-Haul trucks or like pickup trucks from Home Depot and just using those to drive around. I'm like, well, there you
Yep.
go. There you
Yeah,
go.
I heard that too. And I was about to hit purchase on a beach trip to Aruba, but my husband's a nurse, and he was like, I just don't think it's a good idea.
Hmm.
So my dreams were crushed. So New Hampshire beach, here we come.
There you go. Hampton Beach.
There we go.
Make sure you get some, what is it, Pat's fried dough? I forget which one.
Oh no, but that's as good as it's going to get this year.
Yeah, we might be right. We might be in the umbrella next to you the way this is going. All right, last one. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Oh, what other profession? I think, I don't know if it's even a profession, but one of the things that still is inside my soul is just like a world traveler. Oh, like Rick Steves. Oh
Hmm.
my God, like amazing. I love Rick Steves. He travels the world, and like what an amazing job. Like I'm so jealous of him. Working for National Geographic and like just going to like these remote places in the world and just taking it all in and then reporting back. That's, oh my God, that would be like my dream job.
Yeah,
Even at this age.
I'm with. Yeah, I watch him too, and I can remember growing up watching him.
I know.
And I'll show my daughters, and they're like, they'll 3 minutes. They're like, what else is on? This is like the most boringest thing ever. I'm like,
I know.
but
Isn't
it's
that
so cool. And they're like, nah, nope.
I know it's sad, but
Eh,
oh well, he travels the world and he gets paid for it.
I know. How cool is that?
I know it's what I want.
All right, Adrian, we're coming up on time. I told you it would go by quick. But before I let you go, is there anything you want to share with the audience? Any words of wisdom you want to put out into the universe?
I would just say, for the lean experts out there and the engineers that are all in the world, yay, go engineers, because they are amazing people. Some of my best friends are engineers, and we have great conversations is, try to layer in the culture piece and think about, it's always respect for the people, but think, spend a little bit more time on that before, you host a week-long Kaizen event and kind of put that into your discovery phase. And, some of the interviews are uncomfortable, building those relationships are hard, but I think that return of your time and investment will be tenfold in terms of sustainability for your project.
Sound advice, and I 100% agree with you. So, Adrienne, if people want to find you, where can they look?
So I have active on LinkedIn, so you can find my profile on there, Adrienne Gill, Gil, it's 1L. I have a website, algconsulting.biz, and my email is algilconsulting@gmail.com.
All right, and I'll put all that in the show notes.
Yep.
So if
Perfect.
anyone's driving, listening, you don't have, you can look later.
And you can always call me. I have a 404 number, which is Atlanta. People never answer my phone calls because it always looks like spam.
Well, I remember when you and I were going to chat one day and that phone number popped up like a minute before 11. I'm like, this is spam.
Yep.
And then it was you because I'm like, I don't want to take the call. And then because I'm supposed to talk to Adrienne in a second. And it was you anyways.
I know. I usually text people before I'm like, it's me. I've never changed my number. It's the way it is, which is fine. But anyway, just funny.
Cool. All right, Adrienne, thank you very much. Enjoy the weekend, the beautiful weather.
Yes, thank you, Paul. You too. Get out. It's beautiful. Yeah. Unbelievably outside.
Yeah, for sure. But thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
I knew this was going to be a lot of fun, and it was. It lived up to the hype.
That's awesome. I love it.
All right, Adrienne, I'll let you go. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, everybody, it's Paul. Before I let you go, I just wanted to say thanks again for listening. You've really made doing this podcast a very rewarding experience for me. I get a lot of messages from listeners. Everyone has something nice to say, which I very much appreciate. Of course, I'm always open to feedback on ways we can make it better. I mean, that's Kaizen, after all. And by no stretch do I claim to have got this all figured out. So if there's things that I could do better, please, by all means, feel free to reach out and let me know. And likewise, if there's somebody that you think would be a great guest, also let me know. There's a chance I don't know who those folks are. So if somebody that you can help put us in touch with, somebody you want to learn more about, certainly let me know and I'll reach out to those folks. But I hope you find the podcast fun, and entertaining, educational, and maybe even a little inspirational, I hope. That's really what I'm going after with this whole thing. So thanks again, and one small ask, if you don't mind, if you listen, whatever your preferred platform is, if you could just subscribe, give us 5 stars on Apple or whatever, again, whatever platform you listen to. It helps. The algorithms like it. So if you could do that for me, I would greatly appreciate it. And we'll talk to you real soon. Thanks, everybody.